Netflix has officially cut ties with Meghan Markle's polarizing lifestyle brand As Ever.
Netflix has officially cut ties with Meghan Markle's polarizing lifestyle brand As Ever. Page 6 can confirm.
Netflix just walked away from Meghan Markle, not the other way around. And if you think that's the whole story, you haven't heard what's being said about Prince Harry's role in all of this. Everything in this video is based on publicly reported information from established media outlets. BBC, The Guardian, People Magazine, ABC News, Variety, Deadline, Forbes, Vanity Fair, Newsweek, The Los Angeles Times, and Slate. Where quotes are used, they are the exact confirmed words taken directly from the original interview and the responses that followed. This is not speculation or gossip. There's a version of this story where Meghan Markle is a visionary entrepreneur who got caught in the crossfire of corporate caution and royal baggage. And there's another version where a pattern is finally becoming impossible to ignore. The truth, as it almost always is, probably lives somewhere in between. But right now, the headlines are loud, the receipts are public, and the timeline is hard to spin. Let's go back to March 6th, 2026. That's the day it became official. Meghan Markle's lifestyle brand, As Ever, and Netflix quietly confirmed that their partnership was over. No dramatic press release, no thank you statement dripping with warmth. Just a confirmation and then silence, which in Hollywood says everything. Now you have to understand what this deal was supposed to represent. When Meghan and Harry signed with Netflix back in 2020, it was framed as a bold new chapter. They had stepped back from royal duties, relocated to California, and were building something from scratch on their own terms. The Netflix deal was the crown jewel of that plan, a multi-million-dollar partnership that gave Meghan a platform, resources, and the kind of reach most lifestyle entrepreneurs spend a decade trying to earn. As Ever was supposed to be her proof of concept, her answer to everyone who said she couldn't make it outside the palace walls. And for a while, it looked like it was working. The brand had a clear aesthetic, warm, California organic, aspirational without being alienating. There was genuine interest, real momentum. People were watching, but somewhere between the vision and the execution, things started to fracture. Sources close to Meghan, according to reporting from this past week, say she felt Netflix was being too conservative, too slow, too unwilling to take the kinds of creative risks she believed the brand needed to grow. She wanted expansion. She wanted boldness, and apparently the network wanted something more measured, more controlled, more palatable to a broad audience that, let's be honest, has complicated feelings about the Duchess of Sussex. That tension, whether you sympathize with Meghan or not, is a real and recognizable dynamic in the entertainment industry. Creative people butt heads with corporate gatekeepers every single day. That part of the story isn't unusual. What makes this unusual is the timing. What makes this unusual is the accumulation, because this isn't the first deal that hasn't worked out. This isn't the first project that started with enormous fanfare and ended with a quiet uncoupling. And the internet, which has a long memory and very little mercy, noticed immediately. Within hours of the news breaking, social media was doing what social media does. The takes ranged from measured criticism to something far less kind. The phrase "markled enough" started circulating, a term some people use to describe the idea that Meghan's controversies eventually become too much for even supportive partners to absorb. Whether you find that phrase fair or cruel probably says something about which side of this cultural divide you sit on. But the fact that it was trending says something about the public perception problem she's now facing. And then, just when the Netflix story was settling into the news cycle, Star magazine dropped something that added an entirely new layer to this situation. On March 13th, a report surfaced claiming that Meghan is privately blaming Prince Harry for some of her career setbacks. According to insiders cited in that report, the dynamic between them is generating real tension, serious tension, the kind that doesn't go away with a date night or a carefully arranged public appearance. Now let's be careful here. Tabloid sourcing is tabloid sourcing. Insiders can mean almost anything, and Harry and Meghan have both repeatedly pushed back against narratives they describe as fabricated or malicious. That context matters, and it would be irresponsible to present this as settled fact. But it would also be irresponsible to completely dismiss it, because there's a legitimate question buried inside that report, and it's one that people close to the couple have danced around for a while now. Harry's story, his identity, his value proposition to the American public is inseparable from his royal origins. His memoir, his documentary, his public persona, all of it is built on the foundation of being a prince who walked away. That's compelling. That's a narrative with weight and drama and universal themes of sacrifice and belonging. Meghan's story, ideally, would stand on its own. Her brand, her projects, her vision, these were supposed to exist independently of who she married. That was always the goal. The trouble is, in practice, it hasn't always worked out that way. The royal connection opens doors. But it also hangs over everything. It colors how the media covers her, how audiences receive her, and how partners assess the risk of aligning with her. And if there's any truth to the idea that she's starting to feel like that connection is more liability than asset in her professional life, that is a complicated and deeply human thing to be grappling with. Because what do you do with that? You can't unmarry someone. You can't restructure a family to optimize a brand portfolio. And Harry, by all visible evidence, is not someone who has been able to separate his own emotional narrative from the professional machine they've built together. His pain is public. His estrangement from his family is ongoing. His identity is in a genuinely complex place. And navigating all of that while also trying to run a lifestyle brand with California wellness aesthetics. That's a lot. That is genuinely a lot. Then came page 6, and the Australia story. Meghan is now reportedly set to headline a luxury women's retreat down under. The event is positioned as empowering, wellness-focused, inspirational, exactly the kind of thing her brand has always gestured toward. But then the ticket price was revealed. $2,288 per person. The backlash was swift and, depending on your perspective, either completely justified or completely predictable. Critics pointed to the gap between Meghan's stated values, accessibility, empowerment, community, and a price point that very clearly limits attendance to a wealthy, privileged subset of women. Supporters pushed back, arguing that premium wellness events have always been expensive, that Gwyneth Paltrow built an empire on exactly this model, and that holding Meghan to a different standard is its own form of bias. Both arguments have some merit. Premium pricing in the wellness industry is genuinely normal, but optics are also genuinely real. And when you're a public figure already navigating accusations of inauthenticity, charging nearly $2,300 for a retreat that talks about empowering women is going to create a story. It was always going to create a story. What's striking about this moment, and this is the thing worth sitting with, is how many of these threads are pulling in different directions simultaneously. The Netflix split points to a professional realignment. The Harry Tension report, if there's truth to it, points to a private reckoning. The Australia retreat points to a pivot toward a different kind of platform, smaller, more controlled, more direct to consumer. And the backlash to all of it points to a public that is tired, skeptical, and increasingly unwilling to extend the benefit of the doubt. That's a difficult environment to rebuild in, not impossible. People have come back from worse. But it requires a clarity of vision and a consistency of message that, so far, the Sussex brand has struggled to maintain. What Meghan actually wants, as a professional, as a public figure, as a woman operating in an industry that has never quite known what to do with her, that question remains genuinely open. Is she building towards something new? Is she recalibrating? Is she in a harder moment than she's letting on publicly? The honest answer is that we don't fully know. What we do know is that the window of public patience is narrowing, and the next chapter she writes needs to be clearer, more grounded, and more honest than anything that's come before. Because the audience is still there, even the skeptics are watching. And in the media landscape, that attention, whatever its source, is still an asset. The question is what she does with it.